Good evening. Welcome to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My esteemed co-host is Laura Blackwell. And I hope that you're all healthy and safe and taking care of yourselves and each other and not binge watching the news like I do. I mean, we all have to stay informed, and much as we'd like to look away, we can't really afford to look away. But for me anyway, um, marinating in the constant drumbeat of the daily news cycle gets pretty toxic. So balance in all things, I think. So meanwhile, we're shut in, we're locked down, we're still looking for distraction and amusement, and maybe something a little bit more than that. So Story Hour goes back to the second oldest form of entertainment in human history, sitting around the fire telling lies to each other. So every week we have two authors, a little less than 30 minutes apiece, doing exactly that. There's no Q&A about manuscript format or how to get an agent. There's nothing wrong with those questions at all. And we've all fielded them at readings and all that, but it's just not what we're doing here. A minimum of self-promotion, although we're writers after all, a little bit of that is kind of inevitable. So each week, also, we offer a couple of PSAs suggested by our guest authors about how you might help your communities if you're fortunate enough to be in a position to do that. So let's start with the Cartoon Art Museum. The mission is to ignite imaginations and foster the next generation of visual storytellers by celebrating the history of cartoon art, its role in society, and its universal appeal. I love this one. Their vision is to be the premier destination to experience cartoon art in all its many forms from around the world, and to be a leader in providing insight into the process of creating cartoon art. So the URL is www.cartoonart.org. Please check it out. The second is something that we're all familiar with, ACLU. The blurb on the site says that they desire to create a more perfect union beyond one person, party, or side. Their mission is to realize this promise of the United States Constitution for all and expand the reach of its guarantees. Really a truly essential organization. So capital punishment, criminal law reform, disability rights, free speech, immigrants' rights, LGBT rights, privacy and technology, reproductive freedom, women's rights, voting rights, on and on. www.aclu.org. Everybody's champion. So again, if you're in a position to help at all, please check out both of those organizations. So if you're here via Zoom, please mute your mic, but feel free to leave your camera on if you're so inclined. Feel free to use chat to provide some, symbolic virtual applause for the readers. Our Facebook Live friends, of course, feel free to comment, but obviously we can't see you. So our guest authors tonight are Jeff Reynolds and Shaenon K. Garrity. We're going to start with Jeff. He's a writer from Maryland who works for Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab, home of New Horizons and Parker Solar Probe. He is only a software licensing analyst, though I wouldn't say only. That's a pretty essential function, being in the biz myself. Says he doesn't do any of the fun stuff like building space probes or meeting Brian May, but again, really essential work. His writing has previously appeared in Escape Pod, Daily Science Fiction, Andromeda Spaceways magazine. You can find him online at www.trollbreath.com. So Jeff, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chance to read tonight and to break away from all the doom scrolling we do on a regular basis daily. I'm going to be reading from my first published story. This appeared in Andromeda Spaceways in December of 2018, and it's called The Fairy Folk. Parva, Geth asked, rolling onto his back in the grass. He stared at a sky as clear blue as the sapphire implanted in her chest. She picked flowers in the garden a few feet away.
Uh-oh.
And paused. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. I heard an uh-oh and I stopped. Sometimes she stared at the landscape as the day slid into night, enjoying the subtle shift of colors. What, my dear? Parva asked. I need you, unspoken. Do you still see the fairy people? Will you tease me again if I tell you? I only wish to understand these stories you tell of them. You only wish to determine if I am functioning properly. He did not reply. The rightness of her statement needed none. Yes, I still see them, she said when his response did not fill the void. Tell me again where they live. She gestured towards the forest behind their home. They live there in the trees, eating acorns and mushrooms and living little lives. They are precious to me. Geff pondered the forest. Who would want to live in the greenness when they could live in the city, travel along smooth rails from work to shopping to home, take suborbitals to distant places? No one else he talked to had seen these people. He wanted to believe Parva, to trust her, but he could not prevent himself from theorizing that she suffered from some sort of damage, undetected during routine diagnostics and maintenance. What do they look like, your fairy folk? Parva straightened, her hydraulics emitting a ping as her actuators thrummed in rhythm. Parva's shell spoke in tones that Geff admired as much as her stillness. She moved to him and sat, running her fingers across his smooth, polysynthetic brow. Why do you ask so many questions about the fairy folks? He pondered his answer. He did not want her to misunderstand his intent. I worry about you, unsaid. I wish to see them, he answered, after a pause that measured only micro-oscillations of cesium radiation. But Parva noticed. For her, a pause was the essence of existence. You do not see them because you do not believe, she replied. They can only be seen by those who believe, and those who live. She took the same tone she did with her students, the newly built ones who sat in her classes. They opened their synapses, connected to her thoughts, and she filled them with knowledge, calmly and assuredly, breathing into them the stuff of fact which they absorbed and banked in quantum pathways and neural singularities. Yet she believed in fairies. Geff found the two states dichotomous. Do you see them now, Parva? They are there. They're always there watching us. Why? She lifted his chin with white fingers and touched her forehead to his. Because we make for them stories. We are gods. Geff prepared to leave in the morning while Parva contemplated a cricket which had made its way into their home. She stood frozen in the kitchen, only her ruby optics moving, following the little creature as it hopped around the room and tried to find a place to hide or a way back outside into its world. She did not speak when he left, and he found her there when he returned home 12 hours later. Perhaps this is one of your fairy folk, he said, plugging in for dinner. She said nothing in reply, but she sat down on the stainless steel rack next to his. She dimmed the lights and the cricket chirped happily. Geff tuned his optic nerve to enhance visibility, watching it spring and scurry around the edges of the kitchen until it came to rest in the corner. They are always watching, Parva said without saying, her words passing through the interface and speaking directly to Geff's mind. He felt a throb in his capacitors. The intimacy of her thoughts felt painful and joyous, the way she spoke to him when no one else could hear. No one else spoke to him in such exquisite tones, even when they joined. They? The crickets? He asked, trying to amuse her. The fairy folk, she replied. But he sensed the changing rhythm of her fluids, the way her sense of humor ticked upward by his comment. They watch us so they may learn more about us, and they tell stories of us that they pass on from mother and father to daughter and son. Geff contemplated this idea. He believed in the rightness of observation, theorization, experimentation, and conclusion, the four pillars of belief that all mindful beings must ascribe to for a sense of purpose. If Parva's fairy folk did the same, that would be proper. It is good for any people to describe to the logos of thought. No, they do not subscribe to the logos, for they do not experiment to perceive the rightness of their theories. They make up stories about us, fictional tales about the great race that lives in vast villages and our gods, so that they may explain our ways and know us. What good is fiction, Parva? What good are stories if they are not based on the truth of our observations derived from countless experiments so we may truly understand? The pulse of her humor faded. Why do we not share stories, my dear one? We bring order to chaos, and we build great things with which we thrive, but we don't live. When will we learn to yearn? In the morning, Geff went into the backyard and stared at the green things beyond the trim grass. He contemplated his questions about the fairy folk and his concern for Parva. What was his purpose in these questions? Did she not need repairing? Should the damage go unchecked, would it spread to others and become a sequential failure of everything they knew to be true and right? He found no answers in the growing things, but looking at them soothed his worry. Parva came out and stood beside him. Her fingers slipped into his. What do you see? He focused on different wavelengths of light, zooming in and out. After a few arc degrees of the rise of the star that lit their world, he said, I see trees and vines, green growing things, small birds and insects, a caterpillar climbing a tree trunk to find food. I see squirrels that forage for nuts and a cat who tries to sneak up on them and find its own meal. I do not see your fairy folk. She lifted his silver hand to her face and touched it to her cheek. You must live, Geff. You must stop theorizing and experimenting and must begin living. How? Once upon a time, there were a people who lived upon a world much like this world, and the people were happy and they lived contented lives, for they had everything they needed in abundance. I have heard this story, he said, dropping his hand to his side and unwinding it from her gentle fingers. His metal skin grew cold as the warmth of her touch faded. But the number of people grew ever more until they fought each other for what was left, she continued. The world grew too small for them, but in warring they built things, great things, wondrous things. One day they threw their gazes up, out to the stars where they saw the answers. They flung their ships into the sky and fled the world to find new places where they could live and grow and love and begin all over again renewed. That is the tale of the builders, he said, stepping closer to the forest. That is history, replaced with metaphors and ambiguations. I want to learn of these fairies of yours. She continued her story. The people left behind their progeny, the long-lived ones made from clay and stone and the metals of the earth. They too grew numerous and thrived, but they did not war. They too built things, great things, wondrous things, until one day they came to rule the planet left to them, but they did so peacefully in ways the people had never known. A butterfly landed on her shoulder, so still did she stand as she spoke, her body not resonating to the frequency of her vocalization. He stared at the tiny creature, its body speckled with a fine blue dust. He reached out to touch it, but it spread its wings and launched itself once more. It fluttered around the yard and disappeared into the forest. Is this a story that your fairies tell you? Yes, she replied, this and others. I do not understand, said Geff. What does this show the fairy folk? What do they learn from this story? How does it inform and instruct them? Parva did not answer, but she leaned against him and he felt the warmth of her shell as it dissipated the heat of her batteries. I am afraid for you, unmentioned. There is a new facility, he said. The train will take you there. She broke her stillness with a nod. I will go. Geff fed the spatial location of the facility into their home's databanks. Do you love me? Unquestioned. In the morning when the sun rose, the crickets stopped singing. Geff found Parva in the living space with a large glass jar resting on the table, the small insect inside it. Why did you place it in that jar? I wished for it to be comfortable and have its own place within our home. Should not its home be outside in the world where it lives? I wish to observe it. Geff had no reply for that and could only nod. Observation was to be admired and commended, for it was the dedication to finding the truth. It was better for her to be rooted in the real, not absorbing and repeating fictional stories which could be the broken fragments of a looping subroutine. He did not want to reinforce her damage. Have you made an appointment? Geff asked. Yes, she said, tomorrow. I have 3 days of coordination and joining to attend. I look forward to my return. I will miss you, my dear one, she said, her focus entirely on the small creature inside the jar. One hand rested delicate, pale fingers upon the surface of the glass, the lightest touch of her composites, her intricate nerves signaling her brain about the texture of it, its composition, the temperature that it rested at. His neural feed lurched at her beauty. I will miss you as well, unstated. He took the afternoon suborbital and arrived at the joining 2 hours later. He focused on the task at hand, his mind linked to the others who strove, as he did, to make the world a better place. He did not think of Parva at all, or of her pet. The broken jar lay in pieces, scattered across the kitchen floor, reflecting fragments of light into Gef's optics. Parva sat in the recharging station, motionless. What happened, Parva? She let the pause breathe for more time than he could remember, as though she drew in air for non-existent lungs to speak with. The little creature died. I broke open the jar to extract its body and took it to the fairy people to ask what I should do. Gef dampened the surge of concern that overrode the calm logic of his programming. He signaled the sweeper to clean up the mess and watched as the small robot trundled around the room on its 6 rubber wheels until it finished, returning to its alcove. The floor looked perfect, unmarred by tiny sparkles of broken glass. He sat down next to her and plugged in, feeding his memory files into the house banks, searching for hers. There was only one, an endless image of the jar from morning to dusk for 3 entire cycles, the cricket hopping around inside it, until it died, coming to rest on its side. The image stopped, the remainder of the file scrubbed clean. No record of the broken jar, no image of her visit to the fairies. She had not gone to her appointment. I am sorry, Parva, but that is the way of living things. He did not mention the missed maintenance. If she were damaged, he did not want to upset her. He held back from sharing all of himself with her, a sense of incompleteness dimming the joy he normally took in their joinings. I know, she replied inside him. He felt empty without the pleasure of the sound of her voice in his thoughts. I want you, unexpressed. She opened her neural synapses to him, and he entwined his thoughts with hers. They held something back, though, a piece they would not share with each other. He could not define what she prevented him from seeing, except to note its absence. He knew she felt his withdrawal as well. When they finished and she removed her connection, he felt a great emptiness inside himself, a void that ached to be filled. He pulled up the schematics of a new power plant and spent the night hours computing the appropriate resources to complete the project in the optimal amount of time. Parva left before he returned his consciousness to external sensors. Gef searched the house for her, then examined the door locks. She had exited the rear door 27.83 minutes before starrise. He went into the backyard. He did not see Parva, but the trees beckoned with brown limbs and green leaves. He walked close to the border of lawn and forest, reaching a hand out to touch one delicate frond projecting from a branch. He felt its texture, the way it tickled the nerve fibers embedded in his metal framework. His optics magnified, and he traced the pattern of water flowing through the veins of it. When he squeezed too hard, it crumpled, a drop of moisture clinging to his fingertips. He noticed below the tree a mark in the loamy soil. He examined it, measured it using his eyes and his hand. It was Parva's footstep, and he found another beyond the line of trees. Observation, he thought. From this observation, I theorized that Parva entered the forest, perhaps to further observe other small creatures like her cricket. I will see if my theory is right by experimentation and following her trail. It took a tiny fraction of hydrogen's 7 half-life to reach his decision, and an eternity had passed. He followed her trail through the forest. She left clear marks for him, as though she knew he would come to her eventually. Down into hollows, up short climbs, and through a narrow cleft between 2 large rocks. He rose a long, steep hill and found her resting on her knees in a small clearing that overlooked the forest. In her hands, she cupped a clump of grass and the dead cricket. Parva, why did you leave? Why did you not keep your maintenance appointment? He rested a hand upon her shoulder. The cricket died, Gef. That is the way of all living things, my dear. He thought to himself how beautiful the red glow of her pupils were, how perfect in their symmetry. I love you, untold. We do not live. We do not tell stories either, but you do. Then maybe I am the first to live. We do not live. Come home with me. I will stay here a while, she said, looking down at the dead insect in her hands. Will you learn more stories, he asked. Yes, if they are willing to teach me. Will you tell me the stories that they share with you? Sit with me. He sat on the grass with her, and they stared into the trees. Once upon a time, she began, there came a being called the Targus, the great fat sow of the world, mother of all things, who rose high above the ground on muddy legs, towering above the trees, even above many low hills. Over time, as she grew old, the Targus turned away from her children, the many small creatures who sprang from her fertile womb. In her hunger, she began to devour all, and the spore she left behind as she passed over the face of the world became death, for she transformed all that passed before her. She swallowed them with her great mouth and slavering jaws, ripping up the earth with her vast tusks, and spewing out the remnants behind her, the earth left sterile and hard. Geff built an image of the story within his neural pathways, theorizing and hypothesizing, until he observed it in focus. They tell a myth of a resource collector who helped build our cities from raw materials? She did not answer his question. One day, a young warrior named Samael rose from amongst the fairy folk and said, I will face this creature and save our lands. He armed himself with such weapons and magic as they had and rode forth upon the back of a huge black bird. With sword and shield, he faced the Targus, and the battle lasted for many days. On the first day, the Targus slew his mount, and during the fight, Samael was struck down and grievously injured. With his last breath, Samael thrust his sword into the mother of the world and killed her, saving his people from destruction. Now they sing ballads to the courage and might of Samael, and many of the women name their firstborn after him. She said no more. He waited with her for a time until the rains began to fall, and then he returned home. He deleted his notations about the new facility and Parva's appointment from the house records. He joined on a new power plant, and as it was his first as lead, he gave it the name Samael. When questioned, he said the acronym referred to its use as a solar accumulator. He did not want them to know about Parva and the fairy folk. They would insist she go to maintenance, or perhaps disincorporation. The house felt empty without her to join with him, so he visited the forest each day and stood beside Parva, trying to see the things that she perceived. After several weeks, he noticed vines that wrapped her slender white legs, striving for higher light above the ground. The grass in her hands browned and withered, as did the shell of the cricket. Please come back with me, Parva. He knelt beside her. All things die, she said. Samael died fighting the great sow, and the Targus too had to die. Even the stories of the fairy folk. New ones are made when the old ones fade. You will learn this, my dear one. I do not live, but I do. Now I will die, and you will carry me with you in your stories. The day he came to her and saw her eyes no longer glowed, he sat next to her, leaning his head against her leafy body. What he could see of her shell through her green covering was no longer clean, but marred with black stains from the vines. He found it as beautiful as he had found the pure white. He touched her brow, brushing aside the foliage, and kissed her with unyielding lips. I love you, acknowledged. I need you, my darling. Tell me another story from your fairy folks, Parva. Parva did not reply. So Geff listened to the crickets in the forest as they sang the song of their little lives. Then he spoke. Once there was a fairy child named Parva, he began. The end. Thank you.
That was lovely, Jeff. Thank you so much. As you were reading, I was reminded of a quote from an author named Bonnie Friedman. A story is a machine inhabited by a god.
Very much so, yeah.
So that was wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Onward. Our next writer, Shaenon K. Garrity. Shaenon is an award-winning cartoonist and science fiction author, best known for the web comics Narbonic. Is that Narbonic or Narbonic? Narbonic and Skin Horse. She also works as a manga editor for Viz Media. Her first graphic novel, Willowwheat Manor, with artist Christopher Baldwin, will be out in fall 2020 from Margaret K. McElderry Books. Congratulations, that is awesome. I'll be looking for that one. She lives in Berkeley with her husband, Cartoon Art Museum curator Andrew Farago, their son Robin, and a cat named Eve. Over to you, Shaenon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Willowwheat Manor has actually been pushed back to next year for complete collapse of civilization related reasons, but everything else is fairly accurate. I am going to read Demon Clown Diary, which was first published in 2016 in the Sockdalager. Okay, Demon Clown Diary. Worked the sewer tonight. Played to lost children, luring each kid with balloon animals made from the entrails of the previous one. Killer set. Killer set. Some demons ask me why. The places I've been, the things some would call legendary. I wouldn't, but I'm not going to deny this. And here I am, squatting in a sewer, making pink poodles for one at a time. Why keep doing it, they say. I give them the oldest answer, and they roll their eyes or whatever. So I've come to prefer an old routine executed with perfect timing over some experimental bit that doesn't do more than shock and spatter. You should see my swipe file sometime. I've got gags so old they've got chunks of Milton Berle stuck to them. I stick to classic grease paint, no blood or fangs or any of that shit. Trust the material, I say. Clowns are scary. Be a clown. Maybe a couple of fangs. Anyway, I love playing to kids, to the young people. After all these years, it's immensely gratifying that the young people still get me. I'm writing this down because Slickesh the Procurer thinks I should publish my memoirs. Me, I'm not so sure, but a couple things convinced me to at least start putting my recollections down. The first was realizing how much I've forgotten. In what state was the backwoods cult that worshipped me? How many years was I trapped in the cursed Jack-in-the-Box? Not a bad gig looking back, though at the time I was impatient to get on with my career. The second thing is that the smiling boy is coming to eat me. A lot of new demons, young and hungry, have taken me on over the years, and I've always slayed. But the smiling boy might just be the one who kills me. I know he wants it. Maybe I want it too, who knows? Nobody stays on top forever except Bob Hope. I meet Slickesh for coffee. He's looking a little more gelatinous these days, but basically good. He takes care of himself. He tells me, forget smiling boy, work on my memoirs. All those notebooks piled up at my place, he says. There ought to be material. I explain the notebooks aren't diaries. They're full of ideas for bits. Now that I'm home writing this, I can grab one off the nearest stack and check for myself. Listen to this. Empty subway car at night. Looking out windows. Single balloon. Black, red. Smell of rubber more subtle than smell of turpentine. More thinky. Small rabid dog in clown frill. Scarier than big rabid dog in clown frill. Large circus bear scarier than small circus bear. Other options, pot-bellied pig, hyena, parrot, and the rest is scribbled out, followed by never work with animals. Keep practicing knife work. Cornfield, no wind. Balloon visible above corn. Settle on balloon color. Something with airport restrooms. You see, all work. Funny thing, reading these over, I can tell you exactly when I wrote. This notebook has to be from the early 70s because I was experimenting with animal acts around then. And I started doing the subway bit in New York City, summer 1974. 24 karat gold. Audiences were almost too easy in the 70s. I'd walk out of Central Park in the small hours, wondering if I was really scary or everyone I met was just strung out on coke. But I could still be proud of the material I was doing. And I really think a clown standing in an empty subway car has stood the test of time. I hear the smiling boy did a similar bit in San Francisco, for instance. I got started in the carnival circuit. Perfect place for an evil clown to learn the ropes. A carnival's always on the move and it's full of dark corners. I got to hone my act. If the audience in Plattsburgh saw me slip on a pile of manure, or I dropped my straight razor in front of some kids in Yuma, and trust me, both those things happened, I could still terrorize the crowd in Muscatine. Later, I got some of the same thrill working amusement parks, twisting balloon animals under a roller coaster after hours, making rats drop out of my sleeve on the boardwalk. But nothing was ever quite like the carnivals in their glory days. I loved the limelight. No shame in admitting that. But I also learned to love the darkness. Darkness is essential to comedy. People need the privacy of shadows to really laugh and really scream. There used to be a funhouse at carnivals called Laugh in the Dark. I always thought whoever came up with that name got what I was trying to do. Pulled off some killer sets and back in the day. My big is pretty well remembered, I flatter myself to think, so no point in going into detail here. Suffice to say, whatever the internet tells you, I was not the first to appear on television. I was just the first to do it while the television was off. At the height of my success, when I had crowds screaming my name, sometimes I'd take a week or a month off and work the carnivals again. By that time, they were already a shadow of what they'd once been. They were getting safe. I'd pack a duffel bag with balloons and scalpels and go anyway. Time's sake. Everyone thinks I'm the original. That's show business for you. No memory, no restraints. I tell you, I wouldn't be down in this suit if it weren't for the burning jester. I saw him live back in, I don't know, must have been the 6th or 7th century when he raised the royal corsia and danced in the ashes. I'll never forget the screams and laughter mingling, rising into the night. That was when I knew I wanted to do comedy. He was the first to hide in a funhouse mirror, the first to fill a body with candy and razor blades, the first to sing off-key children's songs in an empty playground. And now who remembers the burning jester? The man pioneered ripping off your face to reveal the void beneath. In a few years, everyone will think some jackass like the Smiling Boy invented demonic clown. Truth is, hell has always been a funny place. Dante didn't call it the divine tragedy. That's why you do the memoir, says Slickish, so they don't forget. Or I'd like to be remembered. Not even in a big way. I'll be content if, whenever a carousel turns on by itself and someone is disemboweled beneath its swirling lights, people think of me. Because that's my bit, damn it, whatever Jiminy Whiteface claims. Slickish said the Smiling Boy slaughtered on his European tour. He did mostly smaller venues, remote hostels. He also crashed a Cirque du Soleil show in Munich. Half the audience went mad before the police showed up. Some of the acrobats ate each other. You slayed bigger crowds in the day, says. We're at a pumpkin festival in Northeast Ohio, shooting the breeze while I wait for the sun to go down and my set to begin. Remember orphanages? Remember Tokyo Disney? This Smiling Boy, he's a showman, but he's sloppy. I hand Slickish a pink tuft of cotton candy. But you should maybe check him out. People are wondering why you haven't manifested at one of his gigs. I'm busy. Like hell you're busy. He sucks on the cotton candy. I sound like a kitten going through an electric fan. This small-time shit. This is busy? You got it. I'm small-time. And us small-timers have got to work our goddamn asses off. Back in the Tokyo Disney days, reaping a harvest of single set, I could afford vacations. Nowadays, it's hustle, hustle, hustle. I'm in an attic in Maine one night, pacing a lonely road in Oregon the next. It's hard work. It's not glamorous. And when I ask myself why I'm doing it, only the oldest answer echoes back. So maybe I fed up at Slickish for needling me about it. He's coming for you, says Slickish, sugar dripping off his mandibles. Let him come. Let him come to me instead of the other way around. Can I keep that much of my dignity? As I storm off, I already feel like an ass. It was Slickish who booked me at the Pumpkin Festival. It's got a corn maze, a big one. I could do a lot in a corn maze. Like I said, I love the classics.
It reveals that there are 4 black women on the short list to be.
But it's small time. I spend the evening telling my troubles to Tom Collins. I'm not proud. There's nothing scary about a clown at a bar. That's where you expect to find them. Demons ask me, what's the secret of calm? When I'm killing, really killing, what am I feeling? Sometimes I bullshit them, but sometimes I tell them the truth. And the truth is this: fear. I've never gone out into that darkness without a rush of blind, pants-shitting panic. I could kill, sure, but I could always die. In the moment before a set, you never know which it's going to be. And that's the secret. To be terrifying, you're terrified. Like I say, comedy is hard. Nobody believes it until they face the mundane for themselves. He's coming for you, says Commedia dell'arte. Do you want the cotton candy or don't you, I say. What is it with you and cotton candy? You got any jelly beans? I'm working on a scene with a trail of candy. Where am I supposed to get jelly beans at this hour? Comedia shrugs and flips into a handstand. You're not wearing those shoes, are you? There's something wrong with my shoes now? Clowns, scary. Oversized squeaky clown shoes, not scary. How do you even sneak up on people? For a long time now, Comedia and I have been looking for a project to do together. When she invited me to work with her at an abandoned boys' school outside Poughkeepsie, I packed without a second thought. Now I'm here, though. I'm getting cold, and the giant shoes aren't helping. She's right. The shoes are overkill. I'm a demon clown, not a demon prop comic. I'm a big fan of Comedia, supported her career from early on. And when she was getting started, I like to think she kind of looked up to me. Not so sure our styles. She's more indie, more modern, does black box improv and calls bits scenes. She talks about developing a new approach where audiences come away unsettled, terrified, or dead. I try to get her into Burns and Allen, but she doesn't think they're scared. Did you hear me say he's after you? Everyone's telling me that. What's he want with me? I'm washed up. Anyone notice? If you're washed up, how'd you score this fantastic venue? You pulled strings is how I got this venue. I stalked the vaulted gymnasium, testing the acoustics. It's gorgeous. It's got atmosphere. But where's the audience? Who comes out to a condemned pile of masonry in the middle of nowhere? Urban spelunkers. It's the best audience. They come looking for a scene. Literally search it out. Urban spelunkers are the new teens in the woods. I remember when horny teens were the new virgins in peignoirs. You're an old clown, but you're not that old. Change the subject. About the boy, I got nothing to say. I poked my head into a side door. A quick pommel horse. Bare bulb swinging from the ceiling. Potential. You gotta take this seriously. The smiling boy's not just another imp with a rubber jetty. He knows his shit. Have you seen his act? A long pause. Comedia tumbles to the ceiling in slow motion like a dandelion seed. She's been rehearsing. At last, she says, I've seen Ann act. Supposedly, he changes his entire set for every tour. What, just throws it all out and starts from down to the last gobbet of flesh. I give a low whistle. And a longer pause. He's good. How good? Good. She knows what I'm asking. Is he as good as me? Good as I used to be? Good as she maybe thought I was when we first met, before she learned all my tricks? The night she crept up pale, giggled at the pictures I was painting in blood on the hospital walls. But I don't have the stones to ask, and she's not about to volunteer the information. Down the hall, a door splinters. Laughter drifts in. Sweet human laughter. Urban spelunkers, says, what did I tell you? Seems too easy. Want to be scared? She flashes a grin jammed with teeth like needles. That's the beauty part. They think they can't be. It's my best show in years, and the meal is comped. We do 3 weeks in school and clean up. Before the gig's even over, I'm getting the calls I used to get in the old days. An amusement park here, a cemetery there, the odd children's hospital. Comedia tells me I've got retro appeal. She says I went viral on YouTube. How'd I get on YouTube? I am packing for home. You shitting me? All our victims took video. Some of them had live feeds going from the moment they stepped in. Unbelievable. It's like they're doing promos for us as we eviscerate them. This is a great time to be in the business. You think the dark circus days were good? The laughing sickness epidemics? Forget them. We're on the brink of a whole new golden age of demonic comedy. And I don't commit to any offers right away. Instead of going back to the old gigs, it's maybe time I stretched a little. Thinking a road show. All new material. Improv. Good chance to see the country and catch up with old friends. When was the last time I shot the shit with Headless Coco and Wheel? I heard they both retired to Miami. I kill in Miami. The flyer's waiting in my P.O. box when I get home. I get a sour mouth before I read it. The Smiling Boys Carnival of Truth, it says in whirling script, the kind they probably consider vintage these days. 1 day only. I am here. The date underneath is April Fool's, less than a month away. Then the list of attractions, the fun house, red carousel, the tunnels, the blind toy room, sticky cakes, hooks, infected alley. At the bottom, in the smallest print, is the list of talent invited to perform. Long list. All clowns, all demonic. I see Headless Coco and Mr. Pinwheel, Red Lips, Fat Sally, Jiminy Whiteface, Shrapnel the Clown, the Jumping Jack. I see Comedia's name. I see mine. He's calling you out, says Slickish. What did I tell you? I Irish up my coffee with a squirt of aqueous humor. Want a shot of this? I got a whole Rubbermaid thing of eyes from my morgue gig last week. He sent you the flyer so you'd see your name, so you'd know he's expecting you. Damn, this is some fine coffee. This is going to be my new morning routine. Are you listening to me? Are you, or are you not going to this thing? I set the coffee down. You know I'm going. Because he invited you? Or because if you don't come to him, he'll bring the show to you? Neither. I stand, glad I swapped out the squeaky shoes for boots that make a satisfying dead thump. Because the blind toy room is my bit. I own the blind toy room, and the little pissant knows it. You do a lot of work with eyeballs. You ever notice you got a whole injury to the eye thing? I respect the classics. Just to prove it, I cloak myself in red mist, work up a nice exit miasma. It's time the boy learned to respect them too. The Carnival of Truth, I've got to admit, is one hell of a setup. You got your off-kilter Ferris wheel, your black and black tents, your calliope music, playing a smidge too fast. The Smiling Boy put a lot of work thing. Too much work, I'm thinking. The audience walks in already scared. I watch them wander the midway, hypnotized by the lights. Mixed crowd, a lot of teenagers, but some older folks too. It's already dawning on them that they shouldn't have come in. Thing is, a killer routine builds. It toys with the crowd. It makes them want you to follow you down the hole. You can't work with a dead audience. Believe me, I've tried. I drift through the gates holding a single balloon. In the shadows, through slits in the tents, I catch the other acts. Every clown in hell has responded to the Smiling Boy's vacation looks like. There's Dr. Chills with his oversized bone saw. There's Sammy Little weeping on a tightrope. On the carousel, the red clown and the white clown cracking whips, improv a jockey bit. There by the shooting gallery goes half the Volante family, whooping and tumbling. It seeps into my ear like engine oil. So you made it. I love your work. You behind me, or are you throwing your voice? I ask purely out of professional curiosity. Why don't you turn around and see? Me, I'm not so bad at the voice throwing. Always thought I could kill with a vent act, but I never found the right dummy. A rustling of leather, or something. Never too late, though, I say. Never too late. Smiling Boy stands before me, just like that. And no for this guy. He's a skinny kid in monochrome, like a mime crossed with a speaker at a Microsoft conference. Clearly a clown. Even with the razor gashes. Clearly a clown. I'm gonna kill, old clown, he says. I'm gonna slay you. A lot of clowns have tried. Half the jokers you got working this gig I've double billed with at least once. But I'm the one who's gonna do it. Screams flow around us. Music of the fairground. Takes me back. What are you thinking now, old clown? Says the Smiling Boy. I'm thinking I had a pretty good burn about you looking like a computer conference speaker, and I'm trying to decide if Microsoft or Apple is funnier. Apple. You're thinking it's like a Silicon Valley hipster look, right? Mac is the hipster one. Yeah, but Microsoft is a funny word. Nobody does funny words anymore. You're stalling. You want we should do this? One set. You, me. One kills, one dies. In the blind toy room? That's what I built it for. Ready to retire, old clown? And he's gone, leaving a trail of laughter for me to follow. It's maybe a bad sign I don't feel fear this time, but I don't. Just a rush of performance, the hunger to step into the darkness. Chances are good. Good. I'm going to die tonight. What the hell, I think. Dying is easy. I let my balloon drift into the darkness and shout the oldest answer. The word Satan howled as he fell from heaven in the pratfall. What? And leave show business? The end. Thank you.
That was awesome. Really well read. I love the voice.
Thank you.
I've never heard you read it aloud before.
Yeah. I don't read aloud very often.
I like it. I like Commedia dell'arte a lot.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Yeah, definitely great accent.
Thank you.
thank you, Shaenon. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much for
everybody.
having me on.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you both.
And
Two excellent readings.
two excellent readings and two very different stories, but dovetailed really well with each other, as they always do, sort of this weird sort of serendipitous chemistry.
They both have this kind of secret world thing going on.
Yeah.
One bright, one dark.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Yeah. All right, and then thanks to my co-host, Laura Blackwell, who
Thank you so much, Laura.
without whom this just wouldn't be possible for me to carry this by myself. So I'm really grateful for your partnership. And thanks everybody who's coming. Thanks everybody for joining us at Story Hour. And please come back next week. We'll have Lauren Rhodes and R.S. Benedict, so don't miss it. And meanwhile, stay safe. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.